All right, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode, of course, of Original Xbox Weekly. We are, of course, everybody's favorite vintage gaming console podcast where we talk about truly the best console that was ever made, ever existed, ever will be made, ever will exist, most likely. Right. That is the original Xbox.
Yes.
The wonderful Duke controller.
The Xbox first, not to be confused with the Xbox One.
Oh, of course.
Once again, another reason why Microsoft screwed the pooch on not repeating the brilliance of the original Xbox is denying us of our ability to talk about the original Xbox in a short and simple way by calling it the Xbox One. Now there's... it's stupid.
Yeah, I mean, I for one, at least, ever since the original Xbox came out and I played mine into the ground, I have only ever consumed Mountain Dew. I have all of the fixtures in my home, and everything I have fixed to myself, I suppose, since I'm going to use both words apparently, are all neon green in a obnoxious manner, actually. But I am proud of my love of the original Xbox, and that's why we have this podcast.
Yeah, what we wanted to get into this week was a major part of why the original Xbox was so influential and so successful was the astounding, the daring even, I might say, aesthetic design of not only the console, but its interface, the control scheme, or the controllers rather. Really all of it was pretty groundbreaking and first in its field. I started out with the large controllers, letting people know that this console isn't for small humans. No small people are allowed, and if you are, like, you have to be a true gamer if you're a small person and you want to play the original Xbox. Like, I got tiny hands, and so do you, but we persisted.
I do not, thank you.
You got tiny hands.
I don't have tiny hands. My hands grew thanks to the Duke controller. Excuse you.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so I'm still cursed with my tiny hands that the Xbox had to put me through the blood trials of Halo 1 and MechAssault 1 and Oddworld. Yes, Oddworld. And that Oddworld game. Those were the three games for the Xbox One. And Phantom Dust, which is actually legitimately an amazing game. Play Phantom Dust. But that, I mean, that game's not real. The only real games for the Xbox, the original Xbox that we need to talk about are Oddworld, Halo 1, and MechAssault. Really, I don't think anything else came out. Oh, and Madden 2006, of course.
Yeah, Knights of the Old Republic, the first one, that was on Xbox.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that game's okay. It was that. Okay.
All right. Well, as lovely as this has been, let's get into the preamble, of course, to our real Xbox original podcast. And let's talk about Dota just casually, maybe for an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and go into it, shall we?
Yeah, we can talk a little bit about that before we get back to Oddworld.
Of course. All right. Oh, of course. Also, I am Ursinity, and my co-host is Proud, who has been speaking. And welcome.
Yes. Hello.
So, 7.05 has just hit. You guys reviewed it on the Monday show, of course. And
we did, yes.
We've now played, 3-4 days of it? It came out on Sunday during the bifurcated stream team. That was not quite the stream team, but kind of sort of the stream team.
Yeah, it was still the team stream.
Yeah, that's for sure. But we had a couple stand-ins, and the patch hit, and... How many games have you played of it, Proud? Are you well versed in the world of 7.05?
I am deeply versed in the world. I've played a lot of games of it.
All right. Yeah, I've only played like five or six maybe so far.
Yeah, I played about 37, so I'm pretty deep into it.
Sick. All right. So what are your opinions so far? Because mine are a little biased.
Yeah, I love it.
Small sample size.
There was I was talking to someone about Alchemist. And they were, I think it was, it was rolling on the Patch Notes review. And he was like, maybe there's something to this. I was like, no, the new acid spray is fucking hilarious. You go up to mid as like Shadow Fiend, and you're like, man, I'm ready to get just fucking destroyed by this acid spray corrosively bleeding through my Shadow it's like shadow chitin into the deep sinewy essence of my red soul fuel. Like that's what you want to avoid as Shadow Fiend. But he just like plops down. It's just this puddle, and you're like, are you shitting me right now? And then you just win the lane, and he's like,
Yeah.
have acid down. You're supposed to be scared, but you're not because it sucks now. So that's great. Love that Alk nerf. Juggernaut is still super good, but I will not lie, this -5 move speed thing has broken my heart dearly. Or deeply in many ways. I don't know, but it's rough. So I mean, like none of the nerfs I feel like are to be underestimated, but they didn't. I don't think that they changed up what heroes are good or not, but they certainly, besides Alchemist. Alchemist is the only one that I'm really looking at. I'm like, this hero's out, but it certainly just improved the overall balance of it. Like, as we're gonna get into, like Abaddon, still an amazing pub offlaner. Still, I think probably the best pub offlaner right now. But he is a little bit weaker than he used to be. Kind of like when Lone Druid first got nerfed. Like, yeah, it's more fair now. It's still dumb broken, but at the very least, it's not as bad as it was.
Yeah. I still, I'd be definitely if
Monkey
somebody
King got hosed. Man, that hero
he did too.
sucks now.
I was actually playing a bunch of Monkey King roaming right before the patch. I played I don't know, like 4 or 5 games of it, and I was having a good time. And because I was like, oh boy, well, I need to learn the roamer, like that big roamer. And then he gets nerfed in the ground, and now all those games are just a huge waste of time.
Yeah,
but,
I mean, he's still good, but he's not.
Yeah, he's not the same hero
If
he
you
was.
don't, he's not so good that you have to learn how to play him.
Yeah.
You know, like it used to be like, you know, like, I hate Razor, but there was a time when Razor was so prevalent and so good where I was like, fuck it, I gotta learn Razor.
Yeah,
and like
absolutely.
Lifestealer, I hate Lifestealer, but he's good enough. I'm like, fuck it, I have to get back to playing Lifestealer. But Monkey King is no longer at that point where if you're a roamer, you're like, I have to. I mean, you still kind of do. Like, the second Kiev happens, I'm sure he's still going to be first pick, and they're just going to change up the build a little bit, just like how OD got like nerfed and then changed a little. People play him differently, he's fine. Monkey King's going to be similar. He's still going to be very useful, but for the time being, we are allowed to say he's not that great and move on to other heroes.
Thank God for that. Also, I wish Alchemist was nerfed more. Preferably just deleted from the game. I definitely be in that camp.
Yeah, not a fan.
Yeah, boy. All right. What a gross hero. Anyway, other than that, let's see. I mean, my 7.05 so far for me has been nice. I wouldn't say I noticed any huge changes, of course, since it was a pretty incremental patch, but
yeah,
I am very happy with the Lena change. I know that it is at face value. I mean, it is in a literal sense a nerf to the hero.
Yeah.
But I think it's one of those things where it is a nerf to the hero, but it's a buff to how fun the hero is and how dynamic your builds can be.
Yeah, I completely agree. Like if like people are more interested in their hero doing like cool, fun damage things than the fact that if you die, you like respawn. Yeah. Like if they took away my druid's 40-second respawn time or whatever and gave me just like 30. I don't know, like 30 attack speed, that would be way worse, but I would have way more fun playing it. I like killing motherfuckers. I don't like dying and then being rewarded for it.
Yeah, I am. So I listened to 1437 or Rose or Theban, whatever you want to call him. His
T-Bun.
Yeah, T-Bun. T-Bun. Sorry, whatever.
T-Bun. Yeah, man. T-Bun. Classic.
I listened to his patch notes review, and he raised a really good point on Alina now. That similar to Shadow Fiend at level 10, so you used to just always pick the minus 30 seconds respawn time, but now that it's at level 15, you're going to only pick that half the time. Like, it's still good, of course, but it's a definite trade-off. And now at 15, you actually have the choice to pick cast range or to pick plus 80 LSA damage. And if you choose the plus 80 LSA damage, you'll one-shot every creep wave. Unless you have an Aether Lens, then you can do it anyway, regardless of that talent. But most people don't build Aether Lens on her anyway.
Yeah, because melee creeps start out with 550 health, and that goes up a little bit. Dragon Slave does 320. Light Strike Array Wind Max does 200, so that puts you at 520, so you're like 30 health off from actually one-shotting Creep Wave. But yeah, with that 80, and then even after the creeps scale a bunch, like the extra 80 damage that you have for the buffer, and that's like what you have a 50 damage, like they can scale up 50 more health before you do it, and then you have your int modifying, so pretty much throughout the entire rest of the game you're going to be one-shotting creep waves with your spell combo. I guess two-shotting you have to say, but yeah, in one fell swoop you will deal with them.
Yeah, so it's perfect in that, or it's just different in the way that now she can flash farm even more effectively, kind of like a Shadow Fiend does in lane, except you could do this
Yeah.
all over the place, and you're super fast because you have your Fiery Soul stacks running, and her
Yeah.
level 25 talent is still like really good. Obviously, you don't hit that every game, but I think I'm very happy with the changes in that it makes my hero more fun, and it does
Wow,
not
makes
make
it
her
better.
weak in the sense
Yeah.
that like it was a nerf, but a nerf to a necessary thing, not a nerf to kind of like the LD nerfs, right? They were not a nerf to the
The
proper
first
thing.
one.
Yeah, well, I mean the second one, right? In that they saw, oh, this hero's too strong, they nerf something
Okay,
that is
they were
not the
not.
broken thing.
Yes.
Lena, if they had said like, yeah, minus 50 LSA damage at all levels, like that would not have addressed the problem. That would have just been like a slap in the face, and then the hero still would have been never dead. So I'm
Yeah.
very happy this is the way that they went with it. I would not be
Yeah.
surprised if in a future patch they nerf her level 25 talent, but I think the hero is going to settle in into a nice little niche in the mid pool and not be like super high priority for non-Lena players.
Yeah, I mean, it was notable. There was like some point at DIC where Lena had a 80% win rate, which is I don't think
Yeah.
it gets much higher than that as far as win rates for heroes. And she was like, so we're going to talk a little bit about the meta for our segment, but a big part of the meta is how many heroes are good in each selective pool. And there's a kind of tier list, like for good roamers, you had Monkey King and Earth Spirit were like top. So there was a kind of interplay between like, oh, do I ban this? Then I give them this, or do I leave them both in the pool? Then we trade. But with mids, there was actually only one good mid, and it was Lena. And then everything else was like, there were a lot of ones that were like fine, but they weren't like Lena's so good that she just becomes like baseline good, and everything else is just varying degrees of like not Lena.
Yeah. It's turns out it's real good to never be dead. And
Yeah.
Bloodstone still like they've nerfed Bloodstone historically over and over again, and the item is still wild. Like if you can build a Bloodstone and only die a couple times or never die, ideally, it is a wild strong item.
Yeah. Bloodstone, good stuff.
The only change that I really take issue with, and actually something you guys did not mention on the Monday show,
Yeah, we avoided that one specifically.
was the Midas change affecting Invoker as a pretty unnecessary nerf. I think like Invoker also got -1 strength, which 20
Yeah.
health, whatever. But Invoker's been hit with a lot of nerfs in the last few patches, and he definitely needed some a little while ago, like maybe like 3 patches ago he needed a nerf, or actually it might have been 7.0 when he got the big nerf. Regardless, he needed a nerf a while ago, but now he's at the point he does not need all these nerfs, dude. Like
Yeah.
the difference between like 0.75 experience change is brutal on a hero like Invoker that's so desperate for levels, right?
Yeah.
The difference between being level 14 at 25 minutes and level 15 at 25 minutes is huge, right? Because your 15 talents are so vital to the success of your hero.
Sure.
It's just brutal.
And I can understand that. I think a big part of me not honing in on that is that I'm kind of okay with Invoker going out. Like Invoker's
Yeah.
one of those
A
like
lot of
there's
people
certain
are.
heroes and yeah, but I want to say also there are certain heroes that I never want this hero to not be viable. Like I do not want to play a Dota 2 where there is not a possibility of an Invoker mid. Like he's just too interesting and cool of a hero. Same thing with like Jug should always be somewhat viable, right?
Yeah.
Like I don't want to play a Dota where just Jug no longer exists. Like he fulfills a very necessary niche in terms of like viewer experience or just interplay between different heroes and that sort of thing. Like Darkseer as an offlaner, I always want that to be somewhat viable. Just stuff like that. Like there are some heroes that are just like these are Dota heroes. Like Shadow Fiend should always be a choice. Shit like that. Crystal Maiden, like there's a lot of like iconic Dota heroes that I just like. I want them to be decent, and I don't want Invoker to get nerfed out of the meta.
Yeah.
I did like his strength nerf. I think one less strength on Invoker is totally cool. But I definitely agree that the Midas nerf probably hit him pretty hard. But at the same time, I love the Midas change because gold is the only resource I care about.
Yeah. I mean, Midas definitely needed a nerf overall, so I'm fine with that. It's just one of those things that suck. Just, you wish that the nerf could apply to all heroes except for one, in the way that historically some items have just been nerfed too much because they've been single heroes have just been way too strong with an item, and then they nerf that item, and suddenly all these other heroes that were balanced are now hit hard by that item change. Like S and Y getting nerfed after the 6.83 troll sniper patch and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it
where
actually just hurt like Razor a ton.
yeah,
I
and
mean,
it's like,
Razor's
okay,
pretty good
well,
there. So anyway,
it has all these gross side effects. So those are kind of my two big standouts of the patch, or my three, I suppose, including the Alchemist nerfs. I still really like Bane too. The
yeah,
Bane
that's
changes were
weird. He
what?
sucks. He's a bad
Dude,
hero.
Bane is awesome. All right, I don't
He's
need
a
this. So
shitty
many
ass
people
hero.
dislike Bane, and they think, no, Bane's not bad. Bane's
He
awesome.
doesn't do anything.
He
Who do you run with Bane?
enfeebles.
Like what team do you run with Bane? Like where does he fit into your lineup?
That's not my problem. I don't. My problem is not drafting around a Bane. My problem is making problems for the enemy team when I enfeeble their Weaver and he does no damage because he's an idiot and he deals no
Okay.
damage because enfeebles the
Well,
most god tier ability in the entire game.
yeah, I see. I'm just so tired of people talking about Bane is really good because Enfeeble is a great skill. I'm like, a lot of things
But
are
I'm the
great
only one that
skills,
says
dog.
that.
Dude, there is not a single human who does not pipe up with their edgy ass fucking opinion like, I'm very smart, and I will tell you Enfeeble is the most underrated skill in Dota 2. Like, yes, everyone knows that. No one has ever not had that opinion. It is the
People
most
still skip
common,
it.
like, hipster opinion. Yeah, yeah, a lot of people say it's really good, and then they, like, won't skill it because they can't figure, like, oh, I just can't skill at this game. Like,
Yeah,
this dude was, anyway.
you're not wrong. I don't think Bane is some god tier hero, but I'm always surprised because a lot of people just say like, "Oh, Bane's so boring," but Bane is so fun, dude. I have
Yeah,
so much
he's
fun
fun.
every time I play Bane.
People
Um,
underestimate how goddamn fast and tanky he is.
he's
Like
fast
he
and
supports. It's like you
he
die
does
a
a
lot and you
billion
feel
damage at
weak.
level one.
Yeah, he's got like 70 fucking damage. I think it's like I want to say
He's
64.
62, I think.
62 sounds more accurate. I'm
He
gonna actually pop
has
in just to figure it out.
he has 22 base intelligence, and then his
He
base
has
damage is
62.
50.
Demo
Yeah,
mode. What a
62.
concept.
Yeah, well, 59 to 65, technically speaking.
Thank you for that one. All right, so we've
And
established that Bane is fun but not good. So let's get into some actual stuff. Oh yeah, how's your
I
week been
think
doing?
he's good.
You've been saying that you haven't been playing good Dota lately. You've been tilting. You haven't been playing a lot, so you're gonna try to play more and buckle down. Is that? Did I just catch everyone up on what's going on with you?
Yeah, I suck. Proud had a very good suggestion for the segment today. Otherwise, I was going to reprise an old segment that I've never done, which I've
What?
titled "Realizing That You Suck at Dota." And yeah, I've just been kind of unhappy with my own play recently.
Yeah,
I've kind of whittled it down, and like I realized why I feel this way. And it's just because I've not been playing enough, and that's the gist of it. Like there are other little
damn.
things, but I've just not been good recently, and it's important to
Yeah,
notice that when you're playing, and not think like, oh, my teammates are bad, and that's why I'm losing. It's like, no, I've been losing, and I've been tilting and stuff just because I've been playing bad Dota, and I need to like shake the funk off
yeah. I was
and
hoping
get
that
good
you were
again.
gonna come into you realizing that you're just like a very passive player, but I'm also happy with you just getting better in general. Either one of those would be fine with me.
Yeah, I mean that you're not wrong, but I
I'm
think
just looking forward to you shot calling. I feel like that'll be good for you.
I'm looking forward to it too, honestly, because you're so doubtful, but I'm fine at it. I just don't like doing it.
Yeah, well, if you do it enough, maybe you will no longer have this aversion and you'll be able to move out of the mid lane before 17 minutes after every other tier 1 has been taken by me.
Well, you guys just got to move towards the mid lane, all right?
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, I mean that's not a terribly interesting segment. I just got to focus more and play better Dota, play more Dota, more importantly, and
Some
I just
Ursi
gotta
Dota,
do stuff.
Ursi self-care in the Dota department. Just got to focus on you.
Yeah,
Gotta make
exactly.
sure you're comfy, make sure your quality of life's good. You don't got to worry about anyone else, buddy.
Yeah. Also, like I feel as though I get this way every time I spend too much time in any singular role. I end up being like this. Like when I was playing carry for an extended period of time, I was just getting miserable by the end of it, and I was just
Yeah.
thinking poorly about my own play. Same with support. Like as much as support is my role, my ideal role, after playing support almost exclusively for a year or more, I was getting antsy. And now I've been playing mid again for so long in succession that I'm just kind of getting sick of it. I need a change of pace, and I'm losing
Yeah.
my motivation. So I got to get back on the saddle and focus and do things. I think
Yeah,
I
I
might start
think you
playing a
should
lot of off
play.
lane.
Oh man, offlane I'm enjoying right now. I mean, we're gonna get to that later, but I'm just saying. I feel like you should get back. I know you don't want to lose your 5K or whatever, but just place like I don't know.
Yeah,
My solo ranked games have like a lot of this stuff. Most of the stuff that I bring to Theorycraft Thursday now is like stuff that I learn in my solo ranked games. You know, like a
Yeah.
lot of the stuff that's going on is like me playing with some 6K who like yells at me that this is, you know, whatever, like, oh, this happened. Obviously you do this. And I was like, oh, okay, so everyone's agreeing that this is now the thing to do. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I get that mentality, and I've thought of that as well. But I mean, historically, I mean, you know me, of course. We've played for a long time before the podcast, but
Oh, I
some
know
newer
you.
podcast listeners may be unfamiliar. But I just have never played solo ranked as a player. Like I play in spurts every once in a while, and like I played it for our race, for instance, and I played it intermittently, like every year or every 6 months, I'd spend a month or two like playing a lot of solo ranked and climbing. But I've always followed the incremental solo ranked growth where like I play a game a week or like a few games a week, or I don't play it for a week and then I play it a lot, stuff like that. So it's not unfamiliar territory for me to just not play solo ranked for an extended period of time.
I
But also
know.
like I don't want to play solo ranked when I know that I'm not playing my best. Like that just seems like
Yeah.
a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I am the perfect example of that, but I don't give a
I
shit. I
know.
play anyways,
But
because
yeah,
yeah.
we have very different mentalities regarding ranked, as documented by hundreds of episodes of podcasts. But yeah, it
I will not disagree. All right, let's get into our segment before we keep
yes,
having such narcissistic conversations about ourselves.
that's
Okay,
already
so,
not narcissistic. I'm
shut up.
telling everybody
I
how bad
just
I
said,
am.
I just, and you're half, Jesus fucking, can we just please?
All right,
Can
let's
we?
go.
Do we have your permission now?
We do now, as of
Okay.
right now.
I was just checking. All right, so we're gonna get into it's like the I guess status update. I don't know. This is the meta status update from Theorycraft Thursday, brought to you by Ursinity and Proud.
This is
I put
the
your name first because I didn't want you to get like offended or whatever.
yeah. I mean, I think it sounds better.
Yeah, I don't disagree honestly. All right,
Um.
so what's the deal? What's the meta right now, Sam? Do you know?
Oh boy, that's a good question right now.
Do you
I would
know?
say metagame is. I mean,
You're
offlane
first
is
picking. What are you first picking? What are you first picking?
offlaners. You're
Yep.
you're picking your high priority offlaners. This is the thing we've talked about most, both like independently on our own time and in casts and now in podcasts. But the offlane meta is the thing that I pay attention to most because I feel as though even historically the offlane meta and the mid meta are so isolated and so easy to approach and develop so linearly, I would say, that they're the things I notice the most changing over the
Yeah.
course of patches.
I want to say I want to start this off by saying like as a primer to like use this to as like a maybe as an example of how to interpret a given meta and like use it as a template to then be able to interpret or predict almost any meta because there's several rules that you can follow that will lead you to like very obvious paths. And in my time, like having a decent understanding of Dota, at least in a pub sense, every single meta that we have had since TI since like midway in between TI2 and TI3, every meta like that on has been almost entirely defined by which offlaners were able to offlane. Like that has been the entire meta is just, oh, what
Uh-huh.
metas or what does the offlane look like?
Yeah.
And that just defines like basically everything. All your heroes are point A of every decision that people make right now. And for the past few minutes has just been based around like what the offlane is dictating for your team.
Yeah. Yeah, because the offlane meta is so it affects the safe lane meta so severely that it is really the game changer, right?
Well,
Safe lane meta is more it adapts more around offlane meta than offlane meta
sure.
around safe lane meta, if that makes sense.
I want to say I think the biggest part of it is that there are so few heroes that can successfully offlane that your pool is always going to be very, very small.
Uh-huh.
And like mid, yeah, there's some that like work, well with each other or whatever, but because the offlane is such a weird and slightly like problematic lane, you like heroes there are very few amount of heroes that can actually offlane and reliably like get stuff out of the offlane. That's why when you could Iron Talon jungle and like that was almost better than running an offlaner. That's why we had such a diverse amount of heroes because the offlane was incredibly open that you could run so many different things there, and that let the entire meta be entirely open. So because there are only so few things that can offlane, like back in the day, the only offlaners that could get anything were like around TI3, there were only two offlaners. There was Darkseer and Batrider. and then sometimes Clockwork. And those are because those heroes could say, oh, this lane sucks, and then they would just go farm the jungle. And basically you had a long stretch of time where there were no offlaners. There were just 2 supports, a jungler, a mid, and a safe lane, and you would just abandon from like minute 1. And like that just kept happening. So now there are only a few offlaners that so the meta now for offlane is that like roaming is very good. There's bounty runes everywhere. There's a couple very strong roamers in Monkey King and Earth Spirit. But for like various reasons, your offlane, you want them to be able to like just be a good hero that can be in the offlane, but you want them to be able to like keep their supports in the lane. People like to roam around on mid. They like to gank your safe lane or whatever. You want offlaners that are good enough to keep supports from moving around. And what that means is you want offlaners that the enemy carry can't 1v1. And then that extends to the good carries, are the carries that can 1v1 almost every offlaner. And then the good mids are then the ones that can avoid the ganks from the roaming supports that are free to roam around because your carry can 1v1 their offlaner. And the good supports are the ones that can, get those kills while your safe lane is 1v1ing their offlaners. Like that's where everything comes from.
Yeah, so let's actually talk a bit more specifically about this offlane meta that we've been hyping up so much. So, the offlane has a very, we were talking about tier systems earlier, and for mid, for example, last patch, Lina was in a tier of her own. Right now, offlane is very much decided in that there are 3 very top tier heroes. Like if we were to say tier 1, right, the top, the Brahmin. If we're going to use casts as some allegories, they are Magnus, Abaddon, and what's his name? Centaur. And not in that order. It's if you had to order them, what would you say? I would say probably Magnus, Centaur, Abaddon, or maybe Magnus, Abaddon, Centaur.
From a pub sense, I'd say Abba, Centaur, Mag. From a pro sense, I would definitely say Mag, and then Abba and Centaur are like roughly the same. It just depends what kind of team you want to play.
Okay, that makes sense.
Mag is definitely the best professional offlaner. Like I also want to say that in pros, a lot of the meta, it's not quite as like purely defined by the offlaner. Like like the linchpin of a pro draft is going to be in the first 2 picks what roamer is left over. It's going to be the inner because there are like 3 and maybe 4 if you like Enigma, really good offlaners, and Nyx kind of depending on what you're doing. But there are only 2 roamers right now. So like the meta is also pretty narrowly defined by take one category of hero, be it safe laners or offlaners, roamers, mids, whatever role has like the smallest category of viable heroes, or the smallest category of like top tier first pickable heroes in that role. Like that role is going to kind of define the way the draft shakes out. But as far as the way like the pub meta goes, not as many, like there's not as much synergy with people roaming around as much. So it then kind of defaults like the 4 is not quite as important because you're not going to have perfect Monkey King rotations with this dude you just met, 2 seconds ago. But your off lane is always going to be your off laner, right? So that's why in the pub sense, at least, it's always defined by the off laner.
Yeah. Okay. And so this is kind of, I don't know. I was gonna spoil our combo, which of course I say that as though it's not spoiling the title every day. Yeah. What other big meta things have you been noticing recently? Because you've been playing more post patch. Since the patch, I've not noticed a tremendous difference in my games. I've just kind of been messing around with different heroes that got changes. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I noticed a lot changed as far as what heroes are getting picked, but I am noticing, at least, and this is obviously partly thrown on myself, like so I'm playing Abaddon, of course, Abaddon offlane. I know Abaddon rather. I know we played it recently, but that was in a safe lane, and before he got to be like, oh, this is the thing to do, not just like, oh, here's a cute idea. Why don't I go safe lane Abaddon and get a Radiance? No, now it's like that's the fucking thing. You do that shit, but in the off lane, and you do it differently than I was doing. So this is important. Y'all need to know about the true gospel of Abaddon. Fucking holy shit. Anyway. So changes are, people are very, very, very aware now that Abaddon is absurdly good in pubs. I want to say I played 5 games last night, maybe. Was putting off sleeping for no particular reason. Was very tired today. But first game, someone first picks Abaddon. They win the game. Next game, my teammate says, "Oh God, please someone pick Abaddon." Someone picks it. Next game, I pick Abaddon. Game after, someone begs me to pick Abaddon because there was high 5Ks that won at core positions, and they were like, "Yo, can someone please just pick Abaddon so we have something first pick, and we'll work around it." So I did. So another game is just so on and so forth. Abaddon kept popping up. So it's like, okay, we're well aware that this hero is pretty fucking good. Notably, Magnus was banned in a lot of the games, so it was maybe not quite better than Magnus, but people are well aware. Abaddon's good shit. And then it follows that since Abaddon is getting picked, obviously people want to know what safe laners are going to be good against that. So that's part of why Lifestealer is so much in the meta. Lifestealer, if you look at the heroes that are the heroes that we said are that top tier, there's Magnus, Abaddon, and
Centaur.
And Centaur, big dude, bunch of HP. His way that he gets you away from him is he has a long cast point. It takes a long time for him to wind up his stun. Easily rage dodgeable by Nyx. He also has Feast that does more damage depending on how much health they have because it's percentage based. 100% health on Centaur, you're going to be chunking him huge. 100% of health on a CM, your Feast isn't going to be really ticking for that much. But Abaddon also strength through a lot of health. Magnus also a lot of health. However, Abaddon it's kind of like Mix. Yeah, Nyx can get on you with Infest, but then you can purge it off yourself and walk away. But at the same time, you can't really run at Nyx with your Aphotic Shield, because once you put it on, he can start hitting you, and then once he's got a couple hits in you, then he rages, and then the shield pops.
It off.
Yeah, and the shield pops, but he takes no damage from it. So it's kind of like Abba isn't too bad against Nyx. He's not really going to die, but he's not going to get a lot of farm.
It's a wash.
And then there's Magnus, who anytime he gets infested, Magnus can just what is it?
Open wounds.
Yeah, anytime he gets open wounds, what's the not non-fest, open wounds. What's the Magnus?
Skewer.
Yeah, he can just skewer away. So these are heroes that are okay at 1v1ing most heroes, but Lifestealer really good because he does well against them. Juggernaut also another hero that can just hit Abaddon a ton, and then shield comes up, and then he spins on the shield, doesn't take damage from it. That's why there's my Jug is a very viable carry now. But after that, the list of carries that actually do well against Ursa, Abaddon, or against Magnus, Abaddon, and Centaur is it goes down to Ursa is pretty good against them. Ursa is if you actually look at the carries that have the highest win rates in 4K and 5K plus, Ursa is actually really near the top of the list. It's Ursa, Spectre, and a lot of these are just because they're heroes that statistically just do well in pubs. Spectre can be a terrible hero, and Spectre will still have the highest win rate of all carries across all brackets.
Yeah.
But Spectre is really good. Wraith King, I think, is actually very strong right now. I've lost games to Wraith King a decent amount recently, and he has his win rate is trending upwards. And he has, I think he actually might have the highest win rate amongst carriers. Either way, it's close between him and Spectre.
Yeah, he's usually up there.
Yeah. But the ones you wouldn't really expect are Clinks is very high, and Ursa. And those seem like heroes that normally in pubs, they do well at the start, and then they just get overzealous and they get just totally crapped on. But the fact is, those are two very rare heroes that do have the ability to actually deal with these crazy tanky offlaners that are very comfortable 1v1ing you. Clinks has enough physical damage that even if Abba puts a shield up, he'll be too far away from Clinks. Clinks will drop 2 arrows, break the shield with just that, and then Abaddon's got to run away. Magnus just gonna get he can't trade Empower Harass with a Clinks. Clinks will shoot him 3 times before he even gets close. Just various things like that. I mean, I've kind of said my point.
That makes sense.
It's how meta safe lane versus off lane is defined.
Yeah. And then, I think that's the meta that we've seen change the most so far, and the only one with significant noticeable change compared to mid lane is still kind of finicky post changes. We've seen some, Death Prophet's the only hero with a significantly risen win rate, but she's not at the point where either she has to be developed more as a hero strategically by pro players and high tier players, or she's just not at the crazy wild top tier hero. And then something like Quap is also rising win rate, Zeus as well, but nothing really super dominant appeared in the mid lane either. And then
Yeah, well, I
roamers,
mean,
it's like Spirit Breaker's still good if it's a pub, and then
yeah,
Monkey King is still probably
yeah,
gonna be picked because he's Monkey King and he has some weird, unique mechanics that are uniquely strong. And then Earth Spirit, if you could play him, is always good.
yeah.
Night
I
Stalker too.
mean, as far as the mid lane goes, I'm not sure if you just don't want to say this, but of course, Lena is like by far the
Oh yeah.
best.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe not so much anymore. It may have been changed up, but as far as like, I haven't noticed her getting picked much less. Like even when she was dumb broken, I didn't really see her getting picked like
Yeah, a lot of people
that
don't play her.
much.
Also, a lot of
Yeah, I
people
mean,
suck at her. Like she's
oh
really
yeah,
squishy,
yeah. No,
even
I
with the
definitely don't
Bloodstone.
disagree. Holy shit, man! At 5K, actually, the highest win rate carry right now at 5K plus is Lycan. Worth noting that
Yeah.
it has like a 1% pick rate, like absurdly low.
Yeah,
Like you
kind of like
never see a
Visage.
Lycan.
Like
Yeah,
Visage's win rate will inflate hugely because of really minor buffs, and it's like, yeah, but he has a 3% pick rate. The
yeah,
only
and it's
people that
only
play it
like
are
yeah,
Visage players.
the Visage spammers are doing well. Like big surprise.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, Lycan's doing well. Tree Protector, I'm super interested in seeing how Tree Protector is going to enter the meta. It's like,
Yeah. There was some
I mean,
pro player that was complaining about the Scourge of Death Prophet, Treant Protector as a combo, and maybe we should run
yeah,
that
it's like
next week or something.
that sounds super brutal. Yeah, I mean, I'll play Tree. I mean, he's been nerfed pretty hard, and I feel like I'm not actually that good with him anymore. But I mean, it sounds like a solid combo, honestly.
I mean, obviously the synergy is pretty clear. Just Death Prophet's problem is she's not that tanky after all the nerfs post what was that, TI4, TI3,
Yeah.
and she never really recovered for
TI4,
that strength
and then
wise.
she got nerfed after TI4, and then she was still top tier, and then she got nerfed like three more times, and now it's
Yeah.
just like, not only is she a long cooldown ulti based hero, but it was like back when long ulti cooldowns were still meta. Her ulti was too long to like be played even then, and now that everything is super skirmishy, that's like an extra huge issue.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Although she
I'll be
has
interested if she comes back.
Yeah, she has a lot of CDR stuff now available to her. Like
Yeah,
I've seen a lot of people I've seen on Death Prophet, and I've actually done it myself in the few Death Prophet games I've played. It's actually like that hero, though I have not been playing her recently. She had like people will just go phase boots, bottle, and then like one small item, usually a veil or a Yule's. Then they'll just
yeah,
go and build an Octarine core like right away.
yeah.
And then you'll have like a 30-minute, 25-minute, whatever, depending on your farm, blood Octarine core, and so
It's
that
so
can kind
good
of
with your
compensate a
ulti.
bit. But
It's so good. Like not only the
yeah,
cooldown reduction on it, but the fact that it's like heal you up for a ton while it is going on. Jesus Christ,
yeah,
that's a good
it's
mechanic.
wild.
But okay,
But the
so
hero still has some issues. So
as far as the mid lane is concerned, I'm definitely expecting to see a lot more Shadow Fiend with Alchemist out, because Shadow Fiend is more or less supposed to be the kind of like greedy mid that you get and they need to like pressure you and you're gonna snowball hard and it's gonna be crazy. But Alchemist totally ripped that title out from under Shadow Fiend. And like the worst thing about it is not only does he do it better than Shadow Fiend does, but he beats Shadow Fiend in lane. So it was just like Shadow Fiend was definitely really good, but anytime there was an Alchemist, it was just fucking
yeah,
miserable. But now the Alchemist is pretty far out. Like Shadow Fiend has his niche again, and he's one of the only heroes actually in that niche.
yeah, he's still good. Yeah, he's still good. That's for certain. Like you said, Shadow Fiend should never not be viable as a mid laner. He's very consistent.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, let's just go into our combo, shall we?
Sure. Well, I also want to say, I mean, as far as
Okay.
the roamers, like yeah, like Monkey King and Earth Spirit, whatever. Yeah, so you kind of went over the roamers. Slardar is obviously roamer number three. Like there's Monkey King,
Yeah.
Earth Spirit, and then number three is Slardar, and then Ogre Magi if you're gonna get your initiation from
Spirit
somewhere else.
Breaker.
Yeah, Spirit Breaker is great in pubs. I will definitely say that.
Yeah,
But
especially low level pubs. No offense meant, but the
yeah,
metagame does change. In if you look at win rates, like Spirit Breaker is just a dominating force at all MMRs actually, but particularly at lower MMRs, just because he's so darn tanky and people don't know how to gank him properly
yeah.
and compensate for all that stuff.
I want to say the other like thing that, and this is into the combo, is that Crystal Maiden has actually been doing amazingly. Talking about that meta of you wanting to be able to have your carry 1v1 the offlaner. If you do have someone like a life stealer or a Juggernaut with an early poor man shield who has like a nice start, Crystal Maiden can transfer from, throwing, one Frost Nova or one Frostbite on the offlaner to kind of get the momentum in your carry's favor. And then your Life Stealer gets, boots really early on and has, enough regen, and the enemy offlaner doesn't have boots, and Life Stealer just has to like lunge at them every so often to get them to back up. Crystal Maiden can just rotate right into jungling, and then you can have someone roaming and getting kills. Your 5 is now jungling, is getting a Midas at like 11 minutes. And your carry is 1v1ing their offlaner with like no assistance required. So I feel like CM and any 5 that's able to get like a lot by not being in lane is really, really good right now. And then CM, of course, that extra mana helps your offlaner not get 1v1'd by their carry. This is like one of the few times where I feel like CM aura is actually really, really good, where you don't need your 5 to be going around like zoning the offlaner and making sure that they can kill the offlaner. Like, just because of the meta, your 5 really only needs to get as much resources as possible, and CM is like fantastic at doing that.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I mean, that's perfect. Let's just get right into it. So our combo is going to be Abaddon offlane and a CM as the 5, of course. And we played CM a couple times in the show, and like you said, we played Abaddon recently, but we played him as a safe lane core, and I'm actually excited to do this. I like CM in the first place, and I think we played her semi recently, but the thing about CM is that she is just annoying as hell in the current meta game. Like, roots have been buffed so much post 7.0, and CM herself has been buffed, and items that she buys have been buffed. The new tranquil boots are sweet on her too, and I'm just so into CM just in general. She's so much fun.
Yeah, she's super cool, and the fact that you can be a 5 that also has a farming mechanic is such a beautiful concept.
And the Midas change is, I mean, obviously you want levels on her, but the gold is huge. Like, honestly,
gold's great.
I think it's a fair trade. Obviously, I would rather have the 30% more XP, but
yeah, it's like overall, if you were to value 1 point of experience and 1 point of gold equally, it's definitely a nerf. Like, you lost like 25% efficiency or close to 30%, something like that, on the XP like bonus that it gave, but you only gained like 20% gold or something. I don't remember the exact numbers, but anyway, the point is that overall the number of gold points and experience points you get when combined has been lowered. But if you are more into golds, that kind of shifts it over a little bit, which can bring me into talking about Abaddon a little bit, because that is what I will be playing. And of course, the meta build for Abaddon right now is some degree of phase boots and whatever small periodicals you want into your Midas, and then into the Radiance. And obviously, you're getting the Midas to help you get to the Radiance, and experience does not get you a Radiance, gold does. So the fact that my Midas is now giving me even more gold, and I'm often leveraging my body and just kind of getting myself killed in fights, the fact that this Midas is giving me 220 reliable gold every time I like die for no reason, that's like gold I'm not going to lose. That's like way more. It's a ton more gold, especially if I'm just dying a ton, I'm losing all my unreliable. But this Midas is just keeping me up, and I'm definitely going to get like, I haven't gotten later than, even in like awful games, I haven't gotten later than like a 28-minute Midas or 28-minute Radiance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. Once you have the Midas, it's very achievable.
It's gonna come.
Yeah, and Midas Gold is reliable, like I always remind people, and that's pretty darn effective.
Yeah.
Not that Abaddon has dying problems.
Talking about Spiritbreaker and saying he's better in low-level pubs, Spiritbreaker's highest win rate is actually in 5K plus.
Yeah, I mean, that's very true.
Yeah, it's wild. Anyway, also CM. CM is the, I think, 5th highest win rate support, and the other ones are like Lich and fucking Omni Knight and Tree and Spiritbreaker. So of course, but beyond that, it's like fucking Crystal Maiden. She's actually really, really high win rate, which I don't really associate CM with like a great win rate, but she's
she sucked for a long time. I'll be honest.
She's doing good.
Yeah. So we're talking. I mean, so we talked about each hero individually a bit, right? CM can be a greedy 5. She can take advantage of the jungle. Abaddon can pressure the offlane a lot. He gets a nice radiance. His timings are very strong. But the direct synergy between the two heroes, right, is in pretty much. So CM combos always have one of two synergies, right? There's the classic things like CM Jug or CM Sven, where it's just, okay, well, you root from far away, they run up, they hit him twice, and then they spin or they do whatever, and then you close the kill and you kill offlaners pretty easily.
Yeah. So
But
you got two nukes, and your safe link carrier is always going to have enough mana for their nukes. So
yeah. And
yeah,
then the other kind of umbrella of CM combos is the CM combos that abuse the fact that you're going to have all this mana regen, right? So Abaddon falls under this category where obviously we're not going to be laning together. We're not going to be trying to kill people unless something weird happens, I suppose.
right.
But the beneficial side of this is that you're going to have my aura, and Abaddon has not tremendous mana problems, but he has mana problems in general, and he's one of those classic heroes where you can manage it without having any extra mana items. You don't need mana boots, you don't need a CM, but when you have that CM, or when you have a bunch of mana boots supports, or when you have some sort of mana around you being given to you, it makes a huge difference in taking
Right.
an already lane dominant hero into a super lane dominant hero.
Yeah, it's not that like Abba doesn't have mana issues. Like he can manage just fine, but the fact of the matter is he is still limited by his mana. He's not limited by the cooldowns or whatever. Like he's a totally fine and balanced hero, but if you do like he does have his cooldowns are short enough, and he's normally not spending as much mana as he would like to. Like he's fine, he can stay at par, but
Yep.
if you do give him that extra, like he can actually make use of it, as opposed to a hero like I don't know. Take a hero like Ogre Magi. Ogre Magi really he's not limited by how much mana he has. You can have clarities, whatever. He's just limited by the fact that his spells don't deal like a ton of damage, and he needs to walk at people. Abaddon though, if he has a ton of mana, he can just keep shielding himself and keep trading his body. Like an Abba in lane has roughly 4 shields to work with for the amount of time you can stay in lane, plus the amount of mana regen that you have, maybe three or four, and then your shrine also gives you another 2 or so. So like maybe about 6, maybe 7 shields for the laning phase, and that's like an important thing to think about when you're laning. Is you just say, oh, I have full mana, so I have like a spell or whatever, but you're only gonna have full mana so many times, and the laning stage is actually very finite. It's very easy to say, okay, if over the course of this laning phase, there's no way that I'm gonna put out more than like 5 or 6 aphotic shields if I don't use my shrine well. Like if I have an inefficient shrine usage here, I've only got 2 more aphotic shields for the rest of this laning phase because I just wasted one and got nothing for it. So like, if I use this aphotic shield on a creep, I'm not going to have it for, I'm only going to have 3 left for me for the rest of the laning phase. Like thinking about things like that is super beneficial.
Yeah, absolutely.
But so the way this works with Abba is the second the enemy supports leave, like, I mean, you can still die. Normally, when you're dying on Abba, you leave enough mana for yourself to like aphotic shield yourself enough times that you'll hopefully like live through something. But if something's gonna kill you, it's not really whether or not you had enough mana that's gonna be the issue, unless you just played terribly and you're up in lane with 0 mana for no reason. But if you have a CM, you say, all right, I'm not gonna worry too much. The thing I'm going to concern myself most with is just making sure I'm getting such and such amount of experience. And then as soon as we get to the phase where their carry is going to try to be 1v1ing me and their supports are going to rotate, that's when I say, all right, I have like 10 shields in this lane to work with. So I'm just going to like, as soon as their silencer like walks off and starts trying to pull, that's when I notice I have full mana, and then I just walk up to their lifestealer and I just start hitting them. And then they, start hitting me. I put my shield on, they rage through it. I back up. I wait till their rage is off. I shield myself again, and they're like, "How many more shields is he gonna have?" And then you just keep having more shields.
Yeah.
And it's just wild. Like once you have it, and you're not taking damage anymore, because like I mean, the issue with Abba is you want poor man's shield and you want a tango to start. Like that's the best starting items if you're trying to contest a lane. You have 4 tangos. You have some health buffer through your shields. You have the shrine to work with. You have a decent amount of health regen. But if they have like someone like a life stealer or whatever, or they're able to get an edge at all and start like ticking your health down, like your health doesn't actually come back. You just buffer it with shields. So once you get down low enough, like no matter how many shields you put out, one of them's gonna pop and then you're just gonna die. But if you have a ton of shields and you just like continually buffer your health with shields, your like actual health pool is never gonna like decrease that much, and you still look really strong and intimidating. And they'll be like afraid to gank you. Your life stealer is gonna complain. Their life stealer is gonna complain. They're not gonna be as confident and like aggressing on you, even if they do have the strength to. It's just you like become impossible for them to deal with.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So, and I already had flashbacks to dreading playing against stuff like this, because it is just one of those. He's just
it goes
incessant.
further. That's the first 5 minutes of why this is good.
Yeah. Also, I mean, for Proud's point, so the CM build that is meta, that we have lamented historically is having either max or at least 3 points in Arcane Aura by level 7.
I'm super into 3 points in this meta. 3 points is awesome in this meta.
Yeah, usually it appears, I'm just scanning over a lot of the high MMR and other top CM players, and usually it's always at least 3 points, and usually it's 4 points by 7. Some people in more fighty comps are going Frostbite, Aura, Nova, Nova, and then Aura, Aura. The thing is, you skip your ult usually at 6. You don't get it until... Yeah. Actually, that's a lie. You don't usually skip it, but some people do. Yeah, because you're just kind of mana constrained, right? Because heroes like Lion and like CM, right? They have good mana regen abilities, but their actual mana pool is not that big.
Right.
And so having this high level in Arcane Aura is huge for things like this that we're talking about with the Abaddon comps.
Yeah. So to keep it going on why ABBA is so wild good with this. So in addition to that, farming on ABBA is kind of slow because you don't really have that health regen item. You mostly just rely on your shields and that sort of thing. And to farm on ABBA, you don't actually like right click that hard. You have an Iron Talon, you have your passive that gives you some attack speed, but it's still, I mean, you're no Sven with Cleave, you're no Moonglaive Luna. But if you do have a ton of mana fueling you, like, of course, if you're going Midas early, Midas into Radiance, like neither of those are mana boots. You're not going mana boots. It's not what you're doing. You have like a raindrop and then maybe a stick, but that's all the mana you have. So like your health isn't really coming back, and your mana is not coming back that much. So you can shield yourself every hard camp or so, but that's about it. However, if you're being fueled with massive amounts of mana, you can be farming on ABBA and you can just be like spam shielding yourself and then breaking it with by miscoiling, and you're using miscoil for damage too, and you're not taking like that much damage because you're shielding yourself. And then you say, okay, and then also in team fights, so not only are you farming fast as shit now, like it's like a magnitude of fast, of like speed you gain being able to farm with CM or fueling all your spells being spammed like that. But then not only that, but so I played a game of this, so this is like tested already, I just want to do it on the show. When I have so the way I like to do my ABBA is I stay with brown boots, so I have like brown boots, Iron Talon, sometimes I finish a wand, normally I just keep it as a stick. And oftentimes a raindrop, although with CM I may just skip it. And then Poor Man's Shield, of course, whatever TPs, that business. Maybe Orb of Venom, probably not though. And then I just go straight into Midas from there. And then I go into Radiance, and I keep whatever boot item I'm going to get and my finished wand and quick buy. So if I'm going to die, I'll snap up whatever I can purchase before, so I don't lose unreliable gold or whatever. But yeah. The main idea is that I'm getting Tranquils with this build. I may get it before the Radiance just because, it helps me far more. But what that actually ends up as is I have these Tranquils, and I'm trying not to take a lot of damage. But I have like infinite fucking mana, so I'm not like, okay, I'm not gonna throw 2 miscoils here because that's gonna be one less shield I can put out, and the miscoil is gonna like hurt me, and it's just gonna be a bad situation. I don't give a fuck about that. I'm just sitting there. I got my Tranquils up. I'm full health all the time. Just because Tranquils, they got buffed 14 health regen now. Also, they have more move speed, and Curse of Avernus gives you percentage move speed. Extra synergy there. I'm fast as shit. I got phase boot move speed, as the phase boots are active at all times, just without the phase movement. I get plus damage from Radiance, so I don't mind missing the phase too much. But, like, I just have full health all the time. Mm-hmm. And I am spamming Mistcoil all the time. Like, everyone is just fully healed, and I got Radiance going, and I got full mana, and I'm fucking healing everyone. Like, it's just a different hero. Like, when CM's on your team, you farm fast, and you are like an Oracle level healer. Like, it's honestly absurd, and I'm not like taking any damage while I'm doing this because my Tranquils are healing me up like immediately. God, it is so fucking good, man.
Yeah, it sounds like something. I had not thought of the whole Tranquils thing. I mean, people used to do that back. Well, yeah. This is one thing I know you've always hated, but back when people used to do Tranquils Soul Ring, a support Abaddon, because support Abaddon used to be the way to play him until like IX Mike and NA Dota people were like, hey, let's offlane this. And then it bled over into China and then eventually into everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I was okay with it for Abaddon because there's like actual synergy there. But anyway, Tranquils on Abaddon are definitely really good. It's a lot less of the right clicker build. And
you have less lane presence too, because plus 24 damage and the move speed from phase.
That's if you get them in the lane. Yeah, I mean, most of the time people get the phase boots like in the laning phase at all, and I'm a lot more Midas focused on my guy. But I think that's just like an artifact of the matches that I get in. I think it's probably better to get the phase boots first, but a lot of my games I'm not hitting the true meta of just 1v1ing the offlaner. Like I'm getting zoned pretty hard, and then I get level 4 at like 6 minutes or something, and the enemy safe lane is like level 6 or something. So I'm like, I'm just gonna go for this Midas. I'm not gonna try to get phase boots and then battle up against this dude then die.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, so yeah, you can go either way with it, but with the CM specifically, I'm really into the tranquils and just trading your health as much as possible, and then your tranquils heal you up, and you just throw mist coils everywhere, and man, it is beautiful. Anyway, I really want to play the game.
Yeah, me
I'm
too.
gonna be honest with you, I want to mist coil some things.
All right, so we're gonna play the game. You can find the VOD on .ptv1. That is our YouTube channel, and it'll be fun. I hope. All right, hello everyone. We are back. We have completed our game. It was a fun game. It was a game indeed. It was something.
A game in need.
I will say, I lost my Dota Buff Plus, and I've long been an advocate for Dota Buff Plus, and I don't have mine probably for like another week because my credit card got stolen, so I had to like cancel it, and now I don't have Dota Buff Plus because like it runs out tomorrow.
Yeah.
And now I've had it for so long. I opened the game like so we could talk about it, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is such a like I'm fiending for my Dota Buff Plus stats and all
it's
that.
actually worth noting that the game takes a little bit of time to actually get fully analyzed by Dota Buff. It's not like you play the game and it's done instantly. So even still,
but it's usually done within like 5-10 minutes. Like it's usually done while we're recording.
Yeah, well, we were pretty efficient on going from game to recording this time. So.
That's fair. I mean, we usually are. Anyway, so we played a game. Let's talk about our teams. This was just a preamble. Some weeks it's different. This was us as a duo queue, obviously, and then solo players. Where to some of the weeks where it's a 2 and then a 3. And I think the average to each team was around 4,500-ish. So our team was, of course, a offlane Abaddon. We had a mid sniper. We had a jungle nature's prophet that may or may not have been played by Roland, judging by his build, which was no boots, rush Dagon. That's not a meme. That's literally what happened. You can watch the VOD. Yep. It was it's like it must be a full moon or something. That kind of crap happens. And then we had a safe lane, of course, CM support as our hard 5, and then a life stealer. The enemy team had a safe lane Wraith King, safe lane Juggernaut Warlock. They had a jungle Doom. They had a middle Shadow Fiend and an offlane Nyx. So, those are the teams. We ended up winning this game, I guess, just as the preface to our whole conversation. We won it decisively, I'll say, and it was a good game showcasing the strength of Abaddon. Especially, it's convenient they picked the Doom, and the Doom rushed Ags, and the Abaddon was a real thorn in his side, I suppose.
Thorn in his hide, because Doom has hide.
Actually, I mean, a thorn in your hide wouldn't be that effective, right? Because hide is thick. So it's more of a thorn in your side.
Yeah, it definitely couldn't be a thorn in your hide. That wouldn't work at all.
Yeah. So, what do we want to talk about first?
So we'll talk about my lane a little bit. I was like, it's kind of bad to go up against Juggernaut because he's... If he does get a slight advantage in lane and he gets boots before I do, which is absurdly common, then it does become a little difficult. So like the interplay with Abba versus laners, whatever, is you punch him, you put your shield up, and then they either punch you back and like go through the shield, but then hurt themselves more, and then hopefully you have more health than them, and then you make them like get back. Or you're against a Juggernaut, and you punch him, you put up your shield, he punches you back, and then he spins, and then you're like, shit, this sucks. And then you shield yourself to not take damage, and then their Warlock comes up and then puts a Shadow Word on you, and you're like, I'm gonna purge this. Wait, I just used my shield. And it actually gets kind of difficult. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to just like delay putting my shield up until the Warlock was had Shadow Worded me. But since I went the poor man's shield Tango build, I didn't actually have enough regen to allow my health pool to dip at all, because I kind of got to that point where if I lose any health at all, it's just not coming back. A late shrine usage made that okay for the most part, but it was actually like a fairly difficult lane. I feel like I should have looked at that and just like gotten an Iron Talon, jungled the first couple waves or whatever, got my boots up super quick, and then gone aggressive. I don't think I needed to like try to put forth a lot of pressure because it's not like the Warlock's really going to roam anyways, no matter what I do, right?
Yeah.
So I might as well have just
Well, actually, he did end up coming bottom, but
he did roam, but not to any great effect.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It wasn't something that we were concerned about. And Jug basically had free farm either way. But anyway, once I had my start going a little bit, once you got your level 2 and I was able to actually use my shield a ton, I think I was like... I mean, my lane was like relatively bad in terms of how great it could have been, but it was still good. I mean, I was level 3 at 3 minutes, 4 at 4 minutes. I was 5 at like 5:20 or something like that. And as soon as I got my third point in my shield... and you had like I think you had 2 points in your arcane aura at that point, and I was just like manning up on that lane. Like it was just mine. Yeah, it was just baller as shit. Like I would walk at the Juggernaut and he would have to walk away, and I would just take a bunch of CS and he just had to like look on with envy, and he had to like try to jungle while Doom was also jungling, and Shadow Fiend also kind of lost mid against the sniper, so he had to be forced into the jungle, and they're all like.
They're all getting ganked by Nature's Prophet with the Dagon at
yeah,
like
and
10
then
minutes
there's
or whatever.
oppressive NP with a Dagon, and then we all push like their top tier 2 tower with my Curse of Avernus, like fueling everyone's attack speed. Yeah, it was just brutal. Yeah, like the fact that Warlock tried to... So like the opening gambit was I'd walk out, I punched the Warlock twice, he shadow worded me, I dispelled it immediately with a shield and kept like punching him, and then the Juggernaut like visibly like had to walk away from like a CS that he almost got, and then he like missed another one in the meantime to try to like get me to not kill his Warlock that just blew his load on trying to, you know, deal damage to me, and I immediately dispel it. And it was great. And from that point on, it was like, you know, the lane was kind of getting pushed. I would get, you know, my runes or whatever if they weren't up. But I mean, the Warlock was taking most of them, unfortunately, which kind of sucked. But it was fine, you know. I managed. It's just a really good hero. And the CM aura, like, even though I think I played my lane relatively poorly, like I'm not a good Abaddon by any stretch. I just am able to play it, and am not completely stupid about what items to build. And that's good enough for this fucking hero. Yeah, so I got my Tranquils early because you were giving me so much mana, but I was like, you know, I kept spamming my shields, but eventually my health would just like get low enough. It's like normally at this point, this is when you want to get your Midas on Abaddon, so you just like, you know, get your Iron Talon and start farming. But because you made me so battle ready, I could just get the Tranquils, have like a ton of health, have a ton of mana, and just keep harassing the Jug. And as a result, like, yeah, I mean, I just owned their lane for like 10 minutes. It was just I was at their top lane every time Jug tried to last hit. I'd like, you know, lunge at him like he was some like pasty nerd that I was gonna give a wedgie with my Sword of Avernus, and he was just like, oh, I'm sorry, I'll just go back here. Yeah, it was dope.
Yeah, so earlier you were talking about how when you do the Midas Radiance build, you almost never get your Radiance at a later time than 28 minutes. And in this game, for context, you got your Relic at just about 24, and then you had Radiance at 25. So that's like right on par for what you were talking about earlier in the show. And also for context, the Nature's Prophet, he got first blood bottom, he ganked. It was quite good. He was on a 6-game winning streak. I don't know if that's all Nature's Prophet jungle, but that's what he was on. And he had his Dagon with a Bassi at 8 minutes and 48 seconds. So that was really fast. And as stupid and memey as this build is, it actually was super oppressive. Like the way he played around with it was really punishing for the enemy team because they already had weak lanes. And then on top of that, they were getting ganked by our jungler, whereas their jungler kind of just farmed and farmed and farmed.
Yeah, I will say that Doom is so bad that I would indeed rate a Dagon first Nature's Prophet jungle better than Doom jungle.
Yeah, I agree. Doom is one of those jungles that people get enamored with it in that the jungling is so easy and relatively efficient while it's actually not good, if that makes sense, right?
And it's not easy or efficient. All it is, oh, I can kill a hard creep easily, and then I have a 2.0 base attack time as I slowly try to whittle away the fucking centaur, or not the centaur, the hellbear potato.
Yeah,
like,
that's
that
fair.
It takes a year and a half on Doom. A year and a fucking half.
That's fair. Yeah, I just, like, every time I see people jungle, I'm like, well, I mean, I know, like, you think you can because you eat creeps, but you, like, it's not, like, you're not doing anything. You're not, like, you're not being effective on the map. Anyway,
And it's not Legion. It's not like, you get Duel and then you go gank a lane and then you get Blink and then you just like keep making things happen around the map.
yeah.
Like you're playing Doom and then you get Doom and you still walk up very slowly to someone and then you doom them and then they're Abaddon and then they walk away and they walk to their shrine and then they heal up to full health while their fucking ulti is also going off during Doom and it doesn't matter at all. It was, yeah, that's a really bad hero. Please don't ever pick Doom. Like, we played him in Theorycraft Thursday, and we played him a very specific way that ensured that he would be doing shit early on, and it wasn't too bad, but, I mean, I've tried to play the hero in my own solo games, and, like, it's not good. It's not.
Yeah, I hate Doom, so I'm more than happy to just say, yeah, screw that hero, he's bad.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's bad.
so I'll talk about my lane a little bit. So our safe lane, again, was Lifestealer and CM against a Nyx, who we talked about briefly in the first segment. And we had a jungler, obviously, so I was playing like the hard 6, considering I had to buy let's see, how many sentries did I buy?
8.
Vision. 8?
Yep.
Only 8? No,
Yep.
I bought 9.
Okay. That one just wasn't picked up by Dota buff then.
Yeah. And then I had a few things of dust. Yeah, 2 things of dust. So it was your typical
how many
board
ops does it say that you picked up?
I bought 12 and I placed 9.
Okay, that's weird. I was gonna say maybe it doesn't pick up like the wards you buy in the like strategy phase, but no,
Yeah, I'm
it's
not
there.
sure.
It picked up your obs
Anyway.
right, but it only has 9 cents. Anyway,
And
I
the
like
game-
figuring things out. Sorry.
No, that's fair. And the game was only 30 minutes long too, so presumably I would have bought a lot more wards. Also, if I had more money, I would have bought more wards. But the thing about CM we always talk about, obviously, is that your whole mechanic is that CM plays that hard 5, but she can farm jungle efficiently while doing other things because of the frostbiting creeps. But since we had a jungler, I very rarely got to do that for the first 10 minutes or so. And eventually I had a period where, in typical Ursi fashion, our team was doing things other places, and I was like, I gotta catch up. So it was like 10 minutes. I didn't have tranquil boots yet, and I needed to finish my tranquils. I accidentally finished a wand, which was a stupid pickup. That was a waste of 285 gold. And that really helped a lot. But in the very early, it was very much the problem of, all right, I need to buy sentries. I need to buy dust. I need to buy all these things. So it was your typical poor CM game that I could not compensate with CM's farming mechanic in that game. But our actual lane wasn't that bad. CM cannot solo zone a Nyx assassin, it turns out. Even though he didn't go PMS, he just had regular stout shield, but he had early boots, and I could trade with him a little bit, but I was spending a ton of my mana and a ton of my time to just deal damage to him, but he could still be getting XP the whole time. We ended up killing him a couple times thanks to A, he wasn't very good. B, we had a nice kill lane. Lifestealer plus CM is a pretty solid kill lane. I can either he can slow so that I can get in and frostbite, or vice versa. Then the Nature's Prophet popping in. That's how we first blooded, for instance.
And
Which was
I mean,
nice.
like a Nyx is never going to be stopped by Spiked Carapace. Like you just rage through that. Like Nyx and Juggernaut are so goddamn good against Nyx. Like Nyx is unplayable against those 2 heroes.
Yeah, so it was a nice matchup as it progressed. Once he had 6, so I ended up with 3 deaths. I think I was like, what, 03 and something, 03 and 12?
Yeah, you had 0 kills
03
and
and
died
13.
like 3 fucking times.
Yeah, and that was just, also I didn't feed Kerr, but Kerr got sniped while it was coming to me, which sucked. Because Nyx just kind of did his thing, right? And
sometimes Nyx just takes your courier.
yeah, it's like a bounty hunter, right? Like sometimes your Kerr is just gonna get sniped, and that's just the reality of the situation.
Right.
And
you could always just not send your courier over large swaths of distance, but hey,
I mean, you could, right? But like, you got to live on the edge, right?
I think so.
But yeah, so Nyx kind of, he did his thing, and obviously I'm the only one on our team that he can kill, just going by our team comp, really. Like, even Sniper, you'd think would be squishy, but he rushes a Dragon Lance, and he has phase boots, and
he got a Shadow Blade, so if he does survive that, and Nyx doesn't have Dust, I mean, he's just out. Nyx did eventually buy Dust, so I mean, it is worth noting that not only we had 2 Shadow Blades because we had one on fucking Prophet too. Jesus.
Yeah. So I got killed a few times by Nyx. That's just the reality of the situation. But it ended up being a good CM game. I had a lot of fun, honestly. Just
me too. There was my healing through Tranquil Boots did come into play, although I got a little too into it. We were kind of like in front of high ground, And I was just healing motherfuckers, just like, you get a Q and you get a Q. And then I did it too much and my ulti popped. And I was like, well, we should just get back. That's no big deal. And then eventually Doom popped up and doomed me. And I was like, why would you come in 1v5 and doom me unless, like, I have an ulti, but I didn't because I used it by accident and then I died. And I was like, well, what a lucky fucking Doom you are that you caught me when I used my ultimate for no fucking reason. And then we like kind of got wiped. But beyond that, everything went great. Besides just spam healing until my ulti popped for nothing, the game was pretty great.
Yeah,
Abaddon is really good.
Yeah, it was another good example of very formulaic Dota, where this is obviously the common problem in all tiers of pubs is that, all right, we established a lead, but we didn't push it, and then the other team was greedy and we lost because we weren't able to do things. But this game was a good example of our team created an advantage, and with one exception of one bad fight we took, we were very formulaic, and then we said, okay, we have a nice little lead, Sniper rotated top, we took top, Sniper was mid, so he took mid tower. Bottom tower we took with Nature's Prophet right when he hit 7, I believe, and he had the max treants. And we just took our tower real quick because, boy, treants are really good at taking tower. And we just kind of walked around the map, took objectives, took control of the map, got a few pickoffs, then we high grounded, and then we took a Roche after we took a tier 3 top, I believe. And it was just all very nice and simple. Nice. And...
I want to say another thing I just kind of thought about for Abba.
Sure.
Another reason why he is like probably so good in this meta is think about like times when your offlaner can't really get anything done, and I'm thinking of when you have either a Magnus or a Tidehunter or something, and there's a few dimensions to this. One, like those heroes, they want to farm, like. I mean, Tide doesn't want Blink first, obviously, but he wants to get like the Blink eventually. That like there are specific items that they want before they do things, before they actually exert any pressure on the map. I know I've played with like your Magnus before or other people's Magnuses, and there's always that period where like they have RP but they don't have Blink, and you're like, can we do something? You're like, well, I need Blink, and they're like, well, we can't just not do anything. And the Magnus is like, I don't know what you want from me. I can't do anything until I have Blink, and it's just like kind of shitty. But then you have an Abaddon. And not only is Abaddon, he doesn't need any big items. It's just like eventually Midas and eventually Irradiance. But from the onset, Abaddon is making things happen. It's not like, their carry can 1v1 him and he has to leave. Abaddon is like always putting pressure in that lane and saying, I can 1v1 almost any carry. Even the Jug I could. It's Lifestealer, no, but Jug 100% totally fine with 1v1. It's pretty much any carry except for Ursa or Lifestealer. And I'm always like creating that pressure. And if I am able to like make that lane like unfarmable, I guess, like if I salt that fucking lane and I just like exist and there's no more like arable land or like crops able to be planted there, then they need to go somewhere else. So we have these like fighting carries like Lifestealer, and I hear that's good at fighting early like Crystal Maiden, and like I'm forcing them out of what is like their safe territory. So it's really hard to just avoid us in fights. Like we have a Tidehunter and you're just looking for that Ravage, or your mag doesn't have Blink and you're desperately like looking for good RP. If you have, I mean, obviously you're not going to run Abba and Tidehunter, but like the issue with those heroes is, they're like, shit, I just need an opportunity, but they're farming where you aren't. It's hard to like find one person or them all grouped up, but like Abba kind of forces them all to either deal with the Abba, so it forces them all to come to like the lane where I'm at, or it forces them all to just get the fuck away from me, and I'm like this nuclear radiation zone that everyone wants to stay away from. So like, because we have these fighting heroes, the fact that my Abaddon polarizes where they need to be so much, like it forces us to get something out of our fighting heroes and not let, like a Medusa mid or whatever just farm up. Like he demands to be dealt with. It's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's a huge value. I mean, we for example, on Stream Team, we played Magnus like a couple weeks ago, but Magnus has that problem, exactly like you're saying. And that's kind of the huge difference between these these peers that can fight with nothing, like an Abaddon or like a Centaur even.
Yeah, even
Centaur can still do things.
You have Stampede, like without
Blink.
Yeah, it's still okay.
Whereas Magnus, it's like, okay, well, I don't have Blink, so unless we get like some god tier positioning and like a lucky smoke, I'm not going to be able to contribute a ton. Yeah, so like, it is a very comp limiting dynamic.
Also, I mean, you see that in
And
four positions as well. Like, anyone who wants to blink
yeah,
between playing an Earth Spirit or a Monkey King over a Slider. Like the big disadvantage of Slider is he ganks at level 4, or ganks up until level 4, but after then, like, you're like, I need to farm this fucking Blink Dagger. I can't just keep
yeah,
doing this shit. Whereas the top tier ones are Monkey King and Earth Spirit, who don't need to do that.
yeah. So just to close it out, I suppose talking about this comp and this pairing. This game obviously ended early. It was only a 30-minute game. We kind of just we took our
Sure.
advantage and we pressed it real hard. But let's talk about where we would have gone itemization wise. More so with you, because CM is pretty. Everybody knows what CM builds. I ended up having an E-Blade, but that was just for fun.
Yeah.
I built a Ghost Scepter first, and then I would have gone Force Staff after that. Aether Lens, probably Blink Dagger, some combination of those. This was
You
not
think that
a
you wouldn't have gotten
Midas game.
didn't want to go like a Glimmer because we already had two Shadow Blades or something like that?
Yeah, that was my main concern. And they just had a lot of physical damage that was scaling,
Yeah.
and magic damage we would mitigate anyway with you. So I was more interested in the immediacy of a Ghost
How would I
Scepter.
mitigate magic damage?
I don't know, dude. You're playing Abaddon. Who? Tell me.
Oh, I'm not gonna buy a pipe, man.
Yeah.
I
Well, I mean,
could.
okay, all right. The
Anyway,
you have shields. I can't tell
yeah,
if you're
that only
joking or
work
not.
on magic.
Yeah. Well, shields mitigate, like, you have healing and you have shields, and you're gonna mitigate things like Doom. Well,
I'm
Doom's
gonna
pure damage,
mitigate them.
so
You're not
I
doing
don't
great
want
right
to.
now. You're not
I
doing great right now. I'm gonna be
my
honest.
my brain hurts with this. This is
It's okay. All right. So we'll talk about yeah. I guess
yeah.
Glimmer Cape wasn't that great this game. We had Shadow Blades
I
and
mean,
shit.
Glimmer Cape would have been fine, but it just would not have
Yeah,
been as good as
it's just
others.
like whenever I'm thinking about like things to counter Juggernaut, there's both the Ghost Scepter and the Glimmer Cape options. Ghost Scepter is obviously immediate. Glimmer Cape has a bit of a delay on it, right?
Yeah, and he was carrying dust all game.
Yeah, and then they had dust because we had these fucking Shadow Blades. So that's why I
Yeah.
think it makes perfect sense. Anyway, yeah. So I mean, the build that I ended up going is you were like, "Can you get a gem?" And I was like, "Sure, whatever." So I got a gem immediately, and then I kind of viewed that as an item in between. So on Abba, I almost always go, like the Midas Radiance into one item and then into Octarine. It's always really hard for me to not just say like I'm just gonna get fucking Octarine and then go Octarine right after Radiance, because man, there's so much synergy between like the shield heals you up, or the shield keeps you like it basically heals you up, or protects you, and then when it pops with Octarine, it's AoE and it pops on all these motherfuckers. So like blocks 200 damage and then explodes on like fucking 3 dudes and a bunch of creeps, and it heals you for 200 afterwards. Like the shield is awesome. And it also, if you're like miscoiling people for damage, it heals you up from some of that too. Like it's super good, but you need a little bit of something. Normally, I like to go something that gives me some amount of armor. Really common is like Blade Mail. Vlad's is classic for the Abaddon. Solar Crest, I think, is the one that I would get most games. Solar Crest is just an amazing item right now. It's kind of had people talking about, hey, why does no one build Solar Crest anymore? And now everyone builds Solar Crest again. So that's definitely a good one to go. Notably, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why it's good, but it's always nice to have these kind of like incremental things that force an MKB, incremental mischance or evasion or whatever. So I have like 70%, 17% miss with my Radiance, and then I get the what the fuck is Solar Crest? I feel like that's also like 17, or no, is it 25?
That's like 30.
Is it 30? That was 25 or something. I mean, I don't fucking
I'm
know.
looking it
No,
up.
it's 25. Yeah. So the Shine Ally, when I use it on my ally, it gives them 20% evasion. On me, it has 25% evasion. And then when I use it on an enemy, they gain 25% mischance. So like my Radiance plus my Solar Crest, it's coming up on like, I think that's...
Isn't it multiplicative?
It is multiplicative. That's why
So
it's like 75% of 17. That's like 12. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So
it's
it's
like
like
30
37%. Yeah. It's 37%
high 30s.
total like mischance if I'm applying my radiance to whatever I'm talking about is missing. It's a ton. Like that's a ton. That's 37% less physical damage someone on my team is taking, or everyone is taking from their carry or whatever. Like Solar Crest is awesome, and then it also reduces their armor, and they're just gonna die super fast. I can use it while pushing. I can shield someone and also be Solar Cresting them. While my ulti is up, obviously I don't need the defensive stats. So if it's like, oh, evasion's bad because then when you have your ulti, you'll take less damage. When my ulti's up, I Solar Crest someone else, and then and then I don't have the evasion anymore, and I take all the damage I want.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really good item, and it gives you armor. Like you have a ton of health. Your shield is like more health, and you're about to get your Octarine. Your Octarine gives you health and heals you with his more health. You want to make that health as thick as possible and as difficult to work through by getting a bunch of armor with the Solar Crest.
Yeah, and the huge value of having supports having these items like Solar Crest or like Radiance even. I mean, Radiance on anybody really is that the enemy is not necessarily just going to say, oh, well, I need an MKB because they have a Solar Crest, right? Whereas if they see a butterfly, they're like, all right, I definitely need an MKB.
Yeah.
But the evasion chance from Solar Crest plus Radiance is even more than a butterfly. But people don't think to do that because it's not on the core.
You see the Radiance, you're like, well, when I'm BKB'd, I'll deal with the Radiance, and then after then it won't be a big deal. And then the Solar Crest comes, and you're like, BKB doesn't do a Solar Crest at all. Now I need to go the MKB kind of, or they just don't really I just won't hit whoever he has Solar Crested.
Yeah, it forces hard decisions.
Yeah, it makes and it's a decision they're not comfortable with. They're very comfortable with, butterfly, okay. I will get MKB, but in the Radiance, I don't really need it. Radiance, oh no, they just got a Lotus Solar Crest too. This is such a weird situation. Also, Lotus Orb is something that fits into the archetype of Abba, but because you already have a Dispel built into you, it's obviously kind of redundant to go.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's mostly Blade Mail or Solar Crest or Shiva's is good too. But normally I go Shiva's after Octarine. Yeah, just stuff like that. I wouldn't say go Aether Lens. You're a big boy. You don't need to go Aether Lens.
Yeah, it seems like a bit much. I do like the Lotus Orb, like you said. I mean, sometimes it's redundant, but other games it is incredible in that you can have
so many
two dispels instantly. Like if they global you, for instance, you can Solar Crest yourself. I mean, Lotus Orb yourself, remove it from you, and then shield other people and remove it from them, or other AOE things. I mean, Silencer is really what comes to mind because you have Curse and stuff like that. And that's one of those things that they don't expect.
Of course, Blink is also good. There's that mechanic where if your ulti is popping, you're not ever taking damage. So the Blink dagger will always be up, in the middle of your ultimate, that you can just blink out of harm's way.
Yeah, that too.
But that's a very cute concept, but it's very rarely something that you do on Abba. I don't want to spend 2,000 gold to help me leave a fight on Abba. I'd rather spend 2,000 gold to keep me in a fight longer and killing motherfuckers.
Yeah, it doesn't seem to synergize with the current meta build either. That's very aggressive and in your face because if you're already in their face, you don't really need to blink around. But I am people still do it. It's definitely
it's a cool if you fall down on farm when you're playing a hero like Axe or something like that, as soon as Clockwork, as soon as they can start beating the shit out of you, and it doesn't matter how tanky you think you are, that's when you get the Force Staff or whatever to blink call and then Force Staff away, or Hook Shot Cogs and then Hook Shot out, and that's the similar thing with Abba. You walk in there, you tank for 5 seconds with your ulti, and then you get out because that's all you got.
Yeah, I'm just scrolling through some of the recent high tier games, and it's maybe 15 to 20% of players are building blinks. It's it's not a very large amount.
And it's also that blink and save someone. That's not a crazy concept.
It's definitely viable. It's just kind of play it by ear.
The other thing, of course, is you can go mech on Abba, and you can turn it into Greaves later. It's not a big deal to have phase boots and Greaves if you need the dispel on yourself. Mech is an armor item. When I think, what armor item can I get? Mech is totally on that list. Buckler, fantastic item. And then of course that goes into mech, and the mech active gives you another 2 armor. Yeah, so it's 7 armor from this item. It's good from the mech itself. That is Greaves.
Yeah, he
gives a little more, right?
No, he definitely has a lot of options. I think that's really the crux of it. Is Abaddon is one of those perfect heroes where it's all right, I can do whatever our team needs.
Whatever. Yeah, you can build whatever. The central things that I would say though is Lotus Orb into Octarine is I think the most stable.
Solar Crest into Octarine, you mean?
Yeah, what I say, Lotus Orb?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that moused over. Those are the same item to me. They're
yeah. It's me with Hurricane Pike and
Heaven's Halberd.
Heaven's Halberd, yeah. I always interchange the two. Although I never say Heaven's Halberd, meaning Heaven's Halberd, because nobody buys that.
Why would you? But they're both red items. They're right next to each other in the shop. They've got this little orb in the middle of them. This is bullshit.
That's for sure. All right. Any more closing notes on the game before we hop into plugs and
I think I'm good. Necronomicon is a really bad item in general.
I wish it weren't. I love Necronomicon. It's one of my favorite items in the game, actually. And
I
it just
love
sucks.
that my necro or my lycanthrope is not dependent upon a 90-second necro cooldown though. That I'm pretty okay with.
Yeah, well, he has that
Keeping your
CDR
shit.
talent. Come on, it'll work.
Yeah. Oh man, it could instead be a 76-second cooldown. That would be much better.
Exactly, dude. That's the game. And you build that Octarine that you always buy. It's
Yeah.
sick.
Like
All
an
right.
Octarine, super strong.
So you can watch the games that we just played on youtube.com/.btv1. That's also where you can find all of our other video content. And also if you prefer to listen to podcasts on YouTube, which I do because it saves my space and I don't have to like manually type 50 minutes, 36 seconds or something. We have a Twitch that we stream on, twitch.tv/.btv. Roland streams basically every day. We have our in-houses Wednesday nights. Next week, I believe, is the last week of in-houses before the break. And then we'll be back in a month, I believe. Grady can correct me on that. You can get all that information on our Discord, discord.gg/.p. That's also where we all are, just in general. We have also Sunday team stream. That's 5 Eastern. And this weekend is the Switcheroo stream since we could not do it this past weekend. So look forward to that. I'll be shot calling. Roland and Cyphus will be playing the high priority 1 and 2 position. So that's going to be something, I'm sure. Roland will almost certainly be playing Meepo because that guy's a Meepo fiend now. It's terrifying. And we also have other streams. The Monday or the Tuesday Q&A stream Mondays nights at 9 Eastern. You can send us questions for that, defenseofthepatients@gmail.com, or just PM Cyphus, or we have a phone number. You can find it somewhere. I don't have it memorized. And yeah, or you can have a live caller, of course. And we give away Steam gift cards. It's a good time. Patreon.com/defenseofthepatients. You can support us there. We appreciate it. Get your stuff, get your replay reviews, etc. iTunes reviews also help us tremendously. And that's about it. I'm at Ursinity on Twitter. Proud is at Proud Dota. Our show is at .p_show. And, you know, we can only plug so many things in any given evening. So that's about that for that show. And hopefully everybody had fun. I certainly did. So, goodbye.
Yeah, thanks for the show. Listen, everyone. And that was the plugs given to you by Ursinity himself. Thank you for the plugs, Sam.
That's what I'm here for.
I understand you're tired and you want to leave, but I'm going to keep you here for a bit, and I want to talk to you a little bit about nothing. I'm actually just going to keep going until you get mad and leave because you are very tired.
I'm not. I drank a bunch of caffeine.
Okay.
So I think I'm all right. My dad accidentally bought a bunch of infused waters that are just caffeine in water, basically, and they're not good, but they're very caffeinated. So I'm awake.
I have caffeine pills. Those are actually, that's when I'm just like, I don't actually give a shit. I just like want caffeine, and I don't want to drink some stupid shit. Like, you'll just put a fucking caffeine pill from Amazon in my mouth, and I'm good.
Yeah, when I was in like a freshman in high school, for some reason, people would just like eat caffeine pills for like fun. It was like
it's a great time. Yeah, you just
yeah. It was like before everybody discovered like drugs and drinking and stuff and became degenerates. Everybody was like doing stupid
high on that
things
caffeine
in high school, and they were just like memeing about caffeine pills.
Okay.
And that probably was not healthy for them in the long run, but who knows? I don't have any caffeine pills at my house.
Your
though.
1v1 interview is gonna be boring as shit.
It could be a wellspring of information and stories, but it will almost certainly not be. I like having a boring life. That's like my ideal. I like relaxing. And I like doing nothing.
Yeah. Well, I envy it. Sounds pretty great.
It is great. So on that note, let's end the show. Goodbye.